quarters. Set. General quarters.
General quarters, all hands, main battle station. General quarters, all hands, main battle station.
Tonight, Clint and BZ are going to tear through the gristle of today's screaming headlines and rip out the sinewy tendons of truth ensconced within, all from the hoary streets of Sacramento, Fornicalia, exposing the trembling toadies, the sniveling jackanapes, and the fripperous fopdoodles. Infesting altogether too much of this great nation of ours. Please feel free to partake of our chat room at shrmedia.com. Now, we feature the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint yonder, and the unrestrained bulbosity of the Zeppmeister, doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts. Some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC batteries not included. Terracross dotted line. Heco in Mexico. Patent pending, warranty void in Montenegro. Tonight, Clint and BZ will talk about a veritable gaggle. A shrewdness, a murmuration, an obstinacy, a warren, a pandemonium, a gaggle, a muster, a covey, an unkindness, a maelstrom, a knot, a shiver, a murder, an intrusion, a smack, a hyperprickle, yea, a veritable cauldron of topics. Yonder across from me is in fact the number one sackheads Clint, and I'll be your server tonight with, I'll be your obese somnambulist reprobate for tonight. Sorry, I got to tell you up front,
You can't reprobate on camera.
We don't take American Express. We don't take personal checks. And remember, this is an exhibition, not a competition. Oh, there I am down there. So please, no wagering.
What would they wager on? Would they wager on... is there a Clint story? Would they wager on... they're going to tell personal stories for 10 to 15 minutes or 15 to 20. Is there an over-under on that? Would there be wagers on topics? What does Vegas have for the sackheads? I've never seen the wheel.
I would have called who's that the guy that you used to call Vegas Bob. We would customarily call Vegas Bob for that.
Yes. Yeah, customarily we would.
But I lost his number in the move.
I'll take Vegas Sean.
Would you?
Yeah, is Vegas Sean around?
Yeah, he's not that far.
He's not that far.
He really isn't that far.
Actually, really isn't that far.
He's really very close.
Like, he might be under the desk right now, in front of you. Hey, listen, until he proves he's not, that's where we're going to say he is.
Wow, okay, well.
And that's why you just said wow and got that look on your face.
Okay.
The proof is right around
the proof is in the pudding. Wait a minute, isn't that a symbol? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It is.
You saw what I did there.
I saw what you did there.
You saw what...
And Sean's going to see what you did there unless he closes his eyes. So,
okay. I'm sorry, I'm getting
this
visual.
show is going downhill fast.
And I get what you said there, too. Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, how are your headphones?
Wager on whether Clint shows up. That's messed up.
Yeah, that's a little late. Are your headphones, sir, up, down, or are they okay?
They are fantastic.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
They are fantastic.
Okay, and also, folks, just as per normal, so that you can see, Clint has purchased for me my one each Diet Pepsi for tonight. So again, every time he does that, I must acknowledge the graciousness of Clint. One each.
You know what's funny?
You're wearing a Chive T-shirt.
I am.
Do you read the Chive? Do you look at the Chive?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I say all the time. What that literally means is for about 15 minutes before I go to bed. Because I don't have time during the day. But once in a while, if I'm on lunch or whatever and I have an opportunity, I'll pop. You know why? Because the Chive is a place where you can go, literally pop on for 2-3 minutes.
It's a place where everybody knows your name.
Actually, it is. Have you ever been to a Chive Fest? I went to a Chive Fest, and it was fantastic. I've gone to country concerts and so forth out here. And, yeah, there's chivers out there, and they're like, hey, and if you're wearing a Chive shirt or anything like that, they come over, the beers, everybody's awesome. Everybody's awesome.
Everybody.
It is a, I don't want to say a cult because that sounds weird. It's not a cult. But it is a, how would you describe it? A community? It's a community.
Yeah.
It is a community.
It's funny you should mention that you look at the Chive before you go to bed.
Why is that?
Because My wife does the exact same thing. And I have to admit,
With
folks,
the chive?
Yeah, with the chive.
Oh, good for her.
She reads the chive
Yeah.
before she goes to bed, which I consider to be a little weird, if for no other reason than, folks, if you read the chive,
And it's an app.
it is.
Yeah,
You can
it's great.
download it from Google Play or wherever.
We don't mention the G word here.
Okay, from that place or any place else, depending on what phone you have.
Or the U-Tunes store.
Right, that one. But the weird thing is, she likes some of the stuff, and the first time I saw her looking at the chive at night, at least a year and a half, 2 years ago. If you've never been on the chive is known for... Okay, go ahead and tell us. What is the chive known for?
It's actually just known for, like, their main thing is daily afternoon randomness or daily morning randomness. And there is just random stuff, random memes, random factoids, random knowledge, random whatever. But there is a female following of chivettes, they're called, and they do sometimes post up. Nothing like pornographic or naked or anything like that, but they do sometimes post. I don't want to say provocative.
Okay.
Would you say provocative?
Yes.
Pictures
and
in like chive tank tops or whatever. But that's not like, it's not a see, people that don't follow the chive are going to get the wrong idea.
But see, that's okay. I see what Kaiser did in there. By the way, welcome
Chive
to
talking.
Yeah, chive talking. do
Yeah.
chive talking. And thanks to the Alaskan for being here, as well as Kaiser tonight. Kaiser's going to hate me.
Why?
Because we spoke about this earlier, and I want to bring. Oh, I'm going to
Look at here's something from the chive. Look at it. It's Let's America,
Okay.
and this is from the chive. I don't want to get in trouble for showing their pictures, but
Okay.
look at, they have stuff like a B-52 with complete armament.
Your camera's on, so you
Out,
can show it
right?
if you want.
B-52 with complete armament, or like redneck pontoon boat, which is just random funny shite. It literally goes from a B-52 with full armament to look. I mean, just random.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's very true.
It's just, and then look, there's a picture of a soldier with a tomahawk in his kit, and the general. Oh, there's a
Not the missile.
Just America. Look at that big pizza. It's just random.
World's largest pizza. But the thing that I didn't get about that is the fact that my wife is looking at semi-naked women late at night, which...
Yeah, but those aren't, like, because you'll get stuff like this. Bow hunting season is upon us. And there's I don't even know how provocative that is, right? She's a gal. I mean, she's got a tight
she's well
shirt
endowed.
on. She is, but she's got a tight shirt on, and she's shooting a bow. But other than that, it's like, hey, look, here's the military blowing shit up. Like that's good stuff.
People love it when shit blows up.
Yeah, oftentimes they do, and if they don't, they're liberals.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Like fun facts about the great United States of America. That's awesome. Good stuff.
It is. Okay. First question.
Yes.
Haven't been around here for a while.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go
Yeah.
there. But, and I'm sure you had anticipated this, do you have in the intervening time anything that would resemble a Clint story that you could regale to everyone here tonight?
Not right now. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
That's not true. I do have a Clint story.
All right.
I do have a Clint story.
Okay.
So I've been working my proverbial rear off, but
All the live long day?
all the live long day and then some. But last week I wasn't here because I was literally off the grid. I was up.
Glamping? You were glamping.
No, actually, it was not. We're talking in a tent. My shower consisted of jumping off the dock, soaping up, and jumping back off the dock.
You were glamping.
Oh, no, not
you were in a $1.2 million bus hooked up to shore power.
Yeah, no. Where I was, there was actually
You know it.
There's literally no cell service. There is two dirt roads in, one of which is closed from all the fires that were up in Mendocino County, and the Clear Lake area and all that other stuff.
Oh,
So that's close.
Yeah.
So there's literally one
Clear
road
Lake got
in.
friggin' killed.
That's 10, and this is well past Clear Lake, but it's a 10-mile dirt road. I think it's county maintained.
Did you go north of
in.
Clear Lake?
Yes. Yeah. Pillsbury.
Definitely into Mendocino County
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the Mendocino National Forest.
Did you go as far north as I don't know, Fort Bragg?
No.
Only
No,
further
I
east.
Probably not that far north.
You're more in the mountains then, which means you're away from the
there's
coast.
there's literally no cell. There's no cell service. There's no G. There's no Wi-Fi. There's nothing there. So it's one of those places where you drive off the dirt road and drive a couple miles, and then your phone ding 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 from all the stuff that you missed, which I'm okay with. I just turn it off for a while and check everything when I get back.
Oh, did you take your kids?
I did. So here's the story.
Did it drive them crazy?
So here's the story. No, not at all. Not at all. They were great. So here's the story. I have a specific story, but camping actually consisted of national forest, right? Public lands. These kids, shotguns. Little 22s, the 10. I have a Ruger 1022. Got a little single bolt operating action, single shot bolt 22, 22 pistol. So they shot guns. They fished. They used wrist rockets. They found sticks as swords. They had to find stuff outside to do, and they did because they were actually kids. I don't let my kids have a lot of screen time anyways, and I think you know that. We've had those conversations. They get some time on the weekends, once in a while during the week, maybe in the summer, but for the most part I don't give them a lot of screen time. But they had a great time. So man, we're talking fishing, shooting,
Can
hiking.
you take 1022s and shotguns into the forest?
Oh yeah, national public land, absolutely.
Oh, you can. Okay,
absolutely,
right.
yeah. As a matter of fact,
California.
It's
you
public land?
Are you on federal or just out of curiosity?
Yeah, it's
curiosity,
federal
or state?
Public
federal.
land. Yep.
Okay.
So there's actually like a dirt airstrip, and at the end of the dirt airstrip, there's a big burn where people go and set stuff up and shoot. I mean, it's designed for that. It's not like we're just.
I thought you were going to say that it's a graveyard of planes that when they don't land real well, they crash in this big berm, and that's what stops the planes. And there's a bunch of aircraft parts and whatnot. And you guys went salvaging for materials.
Yes, because you have to. That's what your tent is, as a matter of fact. It's plain doors and hinges from flaps and ailerons and all those things. So the part of the trip is the kids they kneeboarded, and there's a.
Oh, you went to a lake then?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Lake Pillsbury.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Lake Pillsbury. But still, there's nothing. There's nothing up there where we camp in the area we're in. So there's a dock by the campsites, and so there's boats and stuff there. But the kids went kneeboarding, and I be damned.
They were
again. This my
sitting on the dock of the bay.
Yeah,
watching the tide
roll away. Yeah, roll in. Yeah. Okay. So the 6-year-old got up on the kneeboard, which was awesome. I have a video of it. I'll show you on a break.
Okay.
Which, how cool is that at 6 years old? But my 10-year-old is rolling on the kneeboard, and he's 10, and we're coming up on a few young ladies on stand-up paddleboards.
Young.
We're camping also. Yeah, so my guesstimate is 12 to 15 years old.
So about his...
No, they're a little older. They're clearly a little older. I'd say the youngest one was about 12, but there were clearly a couple who were in the 14, 15-year-old range.
Okay.
And I'm looking back, and I'm watching him, obviously, right, as he's going behind the boat. And this dude lets go with one hand, lets go up on one hand, looks over at the ladies as he's passing by, gives them the hang loose with a big old shit-eating grin on his face. They're looking at him like he's the coolest dude in the world, and he's got this big old grin on his face going forward, and yeah.
And then
That's a great story. How's that not a great story?
No, I thought
that's the story.
No, I thought you were going to say, and then he takes a big endo from a wave.
No, like it was
they applaud and they hold up numbers 7.5.
No, it was actually
from
like
Poland, because Poland is really a tough grader.
It is. Yeah. It was actually like a cool story to see this kid, like on his own. Nobody told him to do that. Nobody's out there, right, saying, hey, you should do this. This dude just on his own, let's go one hand. Hey, freaking Shaka sign right there as he's going by these girls on these stand-up paddleboards and just doesn't even miss a beat. And I'm just like, oh, geez.
Okay,
I'm going to be a grandfather in 2 years.
Yeah, my son.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, nothing but little shotgun wedding.
Yeah.
It's a day for rotten. What is that song?
White Wedding.
White Wedding.
Yeah,
it's
White Wedding. Not a shotgun. It's not a day for a
wedding.
Not a day for a shotgun wedding. So, did you see? By the way, so you know the women, the U.S. women are in the finals for the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
I kind of hope they lose, not because I hate America, but because
because there's so much damn baggage with all of this.
Yeah.
You know, and the more people install baggage into sports, the less inclined I am to be. Oh, we have more stories of baggage, and I'm sure that maybe that's what you're leading up to. But
yep.
But I am so damn tired of baggage in sports.
Yeah, we have. She is playing on. There's one player. I don't even want to mention her name.
Yeah, I can't think of her name, and I don't.
Oh no,
care.
I know her name, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not even going to mention it. So,
all right.
But she refuses to sing the national anthem, put her hand over her heart, any of that stuff.
Well, and she said one of the other ones, or maybe it's the same one, said earlier, like at least a week ago, that if we win and kick everybody's butt, I'm not going to the White House.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to bring up. Did you see Trump's response?
No, I did not.
President Trump.
I should imagine it's grand.
President Trump responded in kind, and let me read you the closing.
Okay.
Rips. It says he goes on, in our country's history, and the poverty index is also the best number ever. Leagues and teams love coming to the White House. I am a big fan of the American team and women's soccer, but Meghan should win first before she talks. Finish the job. We haven't yet.
Oh, hey, that deserves.
There's the tweet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to bring that up because, number one, first, we beat England, and, one of the players is over there pretending to sip tea like they're mocking the English. That's poor sportsmanship.
They got, well.
And they may be a very talented team, and I think.
Consider the source, though.
I think they're a very talented team, but why are the women on women's soccer mocking other teams and refusing to stand for. Or refusing to take part in the national anthem. That to me is sick. You're representing the country, and what kind of message does that send to the rest of the world? And you know what? If you cannot support the country, or at least the flag and the ideals of America, then don't play on the team. The fact that U.S. women's soccer has players on the team for skill and not principle, and this goes back to what we're doing. We as a country, I believe, no longer put principles first. And oftentimes politics and political correctness dictates a course of action or a particular decision that's made. And I think it's really fundamentally hurting the fabric of America. The kids today are seeing Colin Kaepernick, a African American quarterback who is a very athletic individual. The man made it to the NFL, regardless of what you thought. Oh, he sucked when he was there. Okay, how many people that say Colin Kaepernick sucked have the physical ability or the skill to even make it to the NFL, let alone to start the games he started and play in the Super Bowl and almost win? I'm not going to take anything athletically away from Colin Kaepernick. What I am going to take away is how toxic the NFL became and sports in general became when he started a movement that injected politics and divisiveness into something that Americans used to be able to come together.
I will submit that it was nothing. He became a virus. He became an infection.
He did. And you look now at and I think Major League Baseball
spilled all over now.
Major League Baseball has been very smart. Maxwell, a catcher for the Oakland Athletics, tried that shit one game. He wasn't with the team next season. MLB did not did not catch on. But
you make a really good point. Okay, so why is it then that all that bullshit went rampant throughout the NFL?
Because it was allowed.
And MLB, I don't remember, and I'm not a big baseball fan, but I don't remember the Major League. I don't remember stories.
Nope.
Story after story
Nope.
about all these baseball
Nope.
players
One.
refusing
One.
to get out there, refusing to stand.
One, Maxwell, and he's no longer playing baseball, and that shit did not fly.
So what? Okay, so what was the difference? And I'm going to be really blunt
Here.
I'm going to be extremely
I
blunt.
don't think it's where you're going. I think it was tolerated by the other leagues because there's African American players and Puerto Rican players and everything else throughout Major League Baseball.
But let me throw out a few stats. The last stats that I looked at when this was of consequence from 2017 is roughly, 75 to 78 to, depending on when you look, up to perhaps 80% of the NFL players are black.
That might be.
And you can say then, or it could be suggested, that because of the numbers, the owners, and I'm sorry, you can't call them owners now. The NFL has decided that you have to call them governors.
And this is the problem that I talked about. It's the league that tolerates it. The league is the one at fault. The owners of these teams, and they are owners.
Because
those teams are property.
Because it's a business.
It is a business.
And they own
Yes.
the business.
Yes. And so the fact that the NFL tolerates it, the NBA, look at the Sacramento Kings and how they capitulated to the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter, the ones that celebrate when cops get killed, like the one that was killed here 2 weeks ago in Sacramento. So it is tolerated. I don't believe MLB has tolerated that because they understand that baseball as an American sport brings people together. Women's soccer is now tolerating this shit. Look at Nike.
Well, I thought for sure that's where you were going.
I know. I was going women's soccer.
Okay.
But this talks. It brings us into this whole sports discussion about Nike and supposedly what Colin Kaepernick interjected to Nike, and the fact that they decided to pull the Betsy Ross flag shoes that they were going to put out there regarding the revolution for the 4th of July.
Nike already decided with whom they're going to cohabitate.
Yes, and I don't know if it's because of perhaps most of their clients are within the NFL and the NBA and sports that or organizations that gravitate towar's their product.
That's who they're selling to. Well, let's put it this way: that's who they've chosen
to sell to.
But
the point is, why alienate a large segment of the population? Just like the NFL, why are you going to allow this cancer to exist? The NFL could have just as easily said, no. If you want to do that when you are out of uniform, not representing the NFL, not representing your team,
and if it's not against your contract,
right? Because
all of these players sign contracts, and a contract is a business option.
Yes. So if you then go out and look, if you have a social issue that's important to you, whether I agree with it, you agree, whatever, it doesn't matter. You are in your off time not representing the organization, not in the uniform of the organization. Go say your piece. Be an activist. Stand up for what you believe. That's fine. But you will not do that when you are representing the National Football League or Major League Baseball or U.S. Women's Soccer or the National NBA or name the organization. And that's why I think it was allowed to proliferate. And now you look at some of these sports, and again, I bring it up. Football used to be something that people would kind of come together with.
It was a uniting effect and an event that people could rally around, not just at all the individual parks throughout all the United States, but they could get friends together, sit in front of a TV, chow down, have hot dogs, have buddies over.
And it was kind of a break from the bullshit.
Yes, specifically because, okay, where is this?
It's right there.
Specifically because It was apolitical, and everyone could partake.
Correct.
Of
Absolutely.
a Sunday game and root for your favorite team.
Absolutely. I don't care what your personal politics are. Everybody should have an opinion on politics. That's what makes our country great. Everybody should stand up for their belief systems, whether I agree with it or not. You need to be a person of principles, in my opinion, and stand up for what you actually believe in. That's great. But you know what? There's a time
and a place
and
for
a
everything.
place.
Yes.
And for something that unites people and gave people a break from all the crap, that is now forever ruined because of Colin Kaepernick and what he started on the field. He didn't start anything. This isn't in terms of a movement. This isn't a new concept. But he's the one that brought this into the NFL and really kind of took off in the sporting world.
I don't know if you've been looking at chat. I should like to welcome. I'd like to welcome Mike in chat, and the Alaskan in chat, and Kaiser in chat. And Kaiser just said this, and he should not have said this. He should not have written this in chat. Kaiser said, "I'm going to drink now with every bell."
Oh.
And I wrote back to him. I said, "Ooh, you shouldn't have told me that."
Yeah,
dude.
that's awesome. No, I think that is cool. Hey, but let's be fair, Kaiser. Let's be fair. The bell has to be reasonable. Reasonable bell usage,
and I'm
reasonable and proper.
Okay, well, let me. Perhaps people should know, and I think you already do, as to when I ring a bell.
Whenever I
on
speak.
My show. Hey, you're close enough. I can actually fist bump you now.
You.
I ring it on my show, and also this one, because somebody will say something, either a caller or you, or I'll make a point or something like that, and it's so pointed that it deserves a
special
mark,
calling.
a special bit of attention to the point that either you or somebody that's calling in or myself make. So that's why the bell goes off when somebody makes a point that I think is really important.
I like
so
that.
I'm not going to be gratuitous. Kaiser, if you think that I'm going to be way gratuitous with this,
then
not
he won't
so
be,
much.
But I might be.
That's true.
Because he didn't say he's going to drink every time you ring the bell.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So
right,
this brings me up kind of this whole hating on America thing as representing America. I really want to touch on it, and I know we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Oh my God, we got 2 minutes before the break.
But I want to talk about this 4th of July parade that is happening in Washington D.C. and the pushback that the left is really pushing hard on.
They're losing their mind over this.
I made this point today with somebody, and what a lot of the left is pissed off about, or some individuals I'll say are really pissed off about, is the militarization of the 4th of July. Trump's going to have a B-2 flyover. Trump's going to have F-35s flyover. He's going to have tanks on National Mall. It's going to be reminiscent of like dictatorships, the Nazis, and everybody's marching their military out. But they're literally pissed off about the militarization of the 4th of July. I want to remind everybody what we are celebrating.
Yes.
We are celebrating the militarization of the American colonies,
right? Because
to fight for our independence against the British. The 4th of July is a holiday to celebrate something when we were engaged in war
with what was the equivalent of our military, whose job it was to kill redcoats.
Yes, in order to secure our independence. So the fact that President Donald Trump or Barack Obama or Jimmy Carter or whoever wants to have the military a part of the 4th of July celebration.
Oh, that's bad.
They absolutely should be. Because they are the reason we have our independence. They are the reason we continue to celebrate and to have our independence. And it is very much a holiday regarding that. Yes, we're celebrating our independence, but you really have to look at how did we achieve that? We did not achieve that diplomatically. We didn't achieve it.
No, it's not like we sat down at a table and everyone agreed right off the bat. We shook hands And we didn't want to go to war. We didn't want to offend. No one wanted to offend anybody
Right.
back in the 1700s, for God's sake.
Right. So this is my point. So, and why is it the left is okay with flyovers of, say, the Super Bowl, or flyovers of sporting events, or Fleet Week, or these other events that
that's
they
a story
have,
for another time.
right? But I'm not talking in the San Francisco, but in other parts of the country,
Right.
where in free America, where you can have a free
in regular
Fleet Week.
America. Hey, we're going to have to cut to a break.
Yeah, in a second. It's our show. We can do whatever the hell we want.
you
That's
sure?
the beauty of, yeah,
Are you sure?
absolutely. That's the beauty. That's
The
beauty of
co-owner's
it.
right over
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
We're gonna
have
do okay.
Did he say?
got,
Okay,
he got,
all
he got,
right.
yeah.
Okay,
We're good.
okay.
So, here's the thing. There's two co-owners, but really there's three. And since you and I are on air, we actually get the vote.
Oh, because he's not here.
Yes.
Okay, it's the presence factor.
Yes.
That's like page 3. That's a really
In the
small
handbook.
paragraph down
Yeah,
there.
in,
Okay.
in the handbook.
Yeah.
So, they're okay with those things, the flowers at sporting events, and so forth. But when the president of the United States wants to do it, I really believe it's because they're scared. They're already saying, "Oh, it's going to be a political rally." I don't think it is. Trump's not stupid, and Donald Trump he's very smart, and I believe he actually loves this country. Particularly if you take an objective look at what he's done, objectively. You have to actually take emotion aside for a moment and look objectively at what he's done.
I completely agree that he does, in fact, love this country.
Yeah, absolutely, he loves this country, and I think that's why he wants to do it. He wants to celebrate our country, celebrate our independence, celebrate our military, and celebrate our position on the global stage. And guess what, folks? He's a huge part as to why we are where we are today. He made history the other way. He's the first United States president.
There's so much
to
stuff we're
set
going to get into
North Korea, but I think we're up against the break, BZ.
Well, I think you're right, and which is why we're going to do this and then be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You know, it might be good if I listened to my own show and came back at an appropriate time when the music was playing. Okay, so here's what happened. Clint and I were talking about what we're going to address in the second segment here, and maybe I should have jumped on the air a little bit sooner. But what I told Clint was this. I have an article in front of me right here by a guy named, it's from the New York Post. It's from an author named Kyle Smith. And because we were talking about this before the break, the headline on this article is called "This 4th of July, Why Have We Lost Our Patriotism?" And he nails it. This guy, Kyle Smith, nails it, and I want to know what you guys think. He starts out this way and addresses a whole bunch of stuff right up front. He starts, "For the haters, it's open season on the American ideal. Colin Kaepernick doesn't like today's American flag because it reminds him of police brutality, and he doesn't like Betsy Ross's OG flag because it reminds him of slavery. I'm starting to think maybe Colin Kaepernick is not so fond of the flag or the country that made him rich. Nike supported him by withdrawing the Betsy Ross flag sneaker. That's right. The American flag in any form is now apparently a toxic symbol. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, actually praised Nike." Well, you would expect that of Californian Gavin Newsom. "Meanwhile, just as you pointed out, Sackhead's Clint, the Charlottesville City Council just voted to stop celebrating Thomas Jefferson's birthday in the city where he died. On the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, he wrote, 'American patriotism has reached a record low entirely because of Democrats.'" Okay, let me repeat that because it's true. American patriotism has just reached a record low entirely because of Democrats, of whom only 22% say they're extremely proud of their country. To celebrate the 4th, America's most prominent newspaper is bidding for the Trolling Hall of Fame by running a video entitled, "Please Stop Telling Me That America Is Great," that argues how America is okay. America's okay.
Go to a better country.
Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly. Look, I want to leave California because California is a horrible state. But
you and I both agree that, well, I've said that I have to wait for my wife to retire. It's another 2 years before she retires.
Yeah. And then we'll be doing this show remotely.
Oh, yeah. She and I have both agreed that when she retires, I'm getting the fuck out of this state.
Yeah. But look, if you can like Ronald Reagan said, you can vote with your feet. If you think that America is that horrible and flawed and that we really don't have the freedoms and that we are not the really the best nation for you to live on earth, then go establish your happiness in a country or in a location that more aligns with your views.
Well,
go. Look, and I'm not saying that to be an a-hole, like we'll get the hell out of America. No, look, if you love America, you want to be in America, then go. Has America had flaws? Well, of course. What country hasn't had flaws? But America is look. First of all, what I think a lot of people forget is we did not bring slavery here. We were English when slavery was established here. We were British colonies. England started that shit. Okay, for us.
Well,
we ended it. American blood ended slavery.
Let me ask you this very salient question. Clint, is slavery occurring today in 2019?
In the United States?
Well, anywhere.
Or in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Yes.
People don't talk about that.
No.
On which continent or which nations is slavery occurring currently?
I believe Africa.
North Africa.
Yep.
That would be correct.
Yep.
And in some Middle Eastern cultures.
Which is Africa.
Which is North Africa and many countries in Africa. So, folks, when you're talking about that kind of stuff and it's so mean and evil, okay, point those deadly fingers inwards and start pointing toward blacks who are currently holding slaves, other blacks, in 2019. Or you can take a big cup of shut the fuck up.
And
I'd also, before we do that, I'd also like to point out this as well. Leftists are of the proscription bent. In other words, when you say if you don't like something, then just don't do it or stop mentioning it or just go someplace else. No, that's not the job of a leftist. The job of a leftist is if they don't like it, it's not enough to just hold it at arm's length.
No.
What they have to do is to make sure that no one can touch it, do it, say it, etc. It must be completely, entirely proscribed. So it isn't enough just to leave the country. No, they're going to change it, even though the bulk of the people don't want anything at all changed about their damn country.
Yes, and I have to say, I have to address something in chat. The Alaskan and Kaiser, yes, slavery existed before the British. My point is we were British colonies at the time.
Yes.
We weren't Dutch colonies or anything like that.
Kaiser mentioned the Dutch, so yes.
So, but we were in fact British colonies, and that was the point. We freed ourselves from that British system, which allowed slavery to flourish, and we put in place through the wording of the Declaration of Independence, the ideals of the founders, yes, even though some of them held slaves, but the ideals that they had. And you look at founders like George Mason, who was not a slaveholder. He was a founder, just like the other founders, in order to abolish slavery when we did. And America is the country that ended that practice through blood.
Well,
you want to know what reparations were paid for the freedom of slaves? American blood. There's your reparations. That price has been paid. How do you put a price on American soldiers' lives? What reparations are owed? I think any reparations have been paid. The blood price has been paid.
Challenge is China, but the biggest geopolitical threat.
Oh, stop! I'm trying to find an article.
What are you trying to find?
That's applicable to a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now, and I've got so many doggone tabs up here that I'm not finding it. Oh, here we go. Okay. About 2 weeks ago, a bunch of lawmakers were debating about reparations for slavery. And the same usual suspects got trotted out: Danny Glover, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, etc. And they were all demanding reparations. Well, you make a good point. Okay, black Americans who believe in this, I want my reparations too. My great-great-uncle was fighting for the blue and was shot and killed during the Civil War. I'm not paying you a damn cent unless I get my cut for my side of the family having sacrificed for you in the Civil War. So that's not going to happen. Let's see. And should there be like a color test? How are we going to determine all of the people that deserve reparations or not? Will there be a color chart? And if you're light chocolate brown or with too much milk mixed in it, what paint job, what percentile of paint job will be eligible for certain reparations? Or are we going to go the Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren DNA route? Will everyone have to take a test in order to acquire reparations? The bottom line of that is...
Well, what do you do with people who...
See how silly we're getting
hang on a second.
out of all of that?
Hang on a sec, BZ. So we now know that genetics no longer matter. If I identify as a female, then I can check female on my driver's license or put non-binary or whatever it is.
Well,
so we know that
in California, you can go to a female bathroom.
We know that genetics...
Why shouldn't you?
We know that genetics no longer matter. So if I identify as an African-American female...
You have dark hair.
Then why would I not be eligible for reparations? Because if I identify as an African-American female, then I am... in fact, an African-American female, just like if I identified as a female in general, I could in fact be a female and use female facilities and have the privileges of a female. So if I identify as a black female, why would I not be eligible for reparations? It's an interesting point. You can't have it both ways, right?
No, you cannot have it both ways. Do you remember a guy named Burgess Owens who was a football player?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay. I'd ask your permission to play 5 minutes of a video because this man makes about 5 minutes of complete and total sense.
I know who you're talking about.
How he somehow slipped into this committee hearing to make this statement is kind of beyond me. And trust me, there were some people afterwards who were saying that he should not have been in this committee hearing. This is the Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution and Civil Rights and Liberties. This is chaired by Representative Stephen Cohen. And somehow somebody let Burgess Owens in to talk about this exact same thing, reparations. And it's interesting to find out who he thinks should be paying reparations.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to take a different tack from beginning. We are at this point, this is not about black and white, rich or poor, blue collar, white collar. We're fighting for the heart and soul of our nation.
Okay. Keep going.
We have a very, very special country that started with the Judeo-Christian values that allowed every single generation to become better than the last. And that has not ended, that has not stopped. Until now, we're telling our kids a little bit something different, that they don't have the opportunities that we had. I'm going to talk about some ideologies. And when I talk about them, I'm not talking about people. People change. I used to be a Democrat until I did my history and found out the misery that party brought to my race. So when I talk about these ideologies don't change. People do. We are fighting for the heart and soul of our nation against socialism, Marxism, and the evil that it has brought to us in the stealing of our history. Karl Marx said it best, the father of socialism, an atheist, anti-Semite, and a blatant racist. Yet we teach his philosophy in our school systems today. He said it, the first battleground is rewriting of our history.
God.
You steal our history, you steal our pride in our past, our appreciation for our present, and our vision for our future. And every single urban city in our country is now experiencing that loss. Real quick history, because these are things that we're not taught. I'm blessed to be the great-great-grandfather of Silas Burgess. Came here in the belly of a slave ship, sold in Charleston, South Carolina with his mother, to the Burgess plantation. An evil, evil man that drove my great-great-great-grandmother either to leaving her family, her kids, or committing suicide. I don't know. She disappeared. But South at age of 8, was blessed to be surrounded by men who believed in freedom. Even though they were shackled, they escaped. They went the southern route of the Underground Railroad, facilitated by white and Mexican Americans. And he's made his way out south to Texas. He ended up being a successful entrepreneur, owned 102 acres of land, paid off in 2 years. Started the first black church, the first black elementary school. Pillar of his community, 18 kids, Christian, Republican. His first son was Alpha Omega. Proud American. An example of what happens when any race, any culture is given hope, opportunity, and freedom. It didn't end there, by the way. The history of our black country, of our black Americans, has been stolen from us for decades, almost over a century. Booker T. Washington, 1882, began Tuskegee University. By 1905...
Hey, one thing I want to point out, folks, Burgess Owens, when he's saying this, he's not reading from a script. He doesn't have a piece of paper in front of him that he's reading from. This is from his heart. He knows history.
It was producing more self-made black millionaires than Harvard, Yale, and Princeton combined. The 40s, 50s, and 60s, it was a black community that led our country in the growth of the middle class. Led our country in terms of men committed to marriage. Over 70%. Now it's 30%.
Yes.
Led our country in terms of the committed to business ownership. 40%. Now it's 3.8%. Men matriculated from college. We now have a higher percentage of men incarcerated in college. It is, by the way, my degree was biology. And that I learned a long time ago that slavery is not a gene in the DNA helix. It's our actions, it's our attitude, it's our belief. I do not believe in reparation, because what reparation does, it points to a certain race, a certain color, and,
yes.
And it points them as evil, and points the other race, my race, as one that is not only becomes racist, but also beggars. I do believe in restitution. Let's point to the party that was part of slavery, KKK, Jim Crow, that has killed over 40% of our black babies, 20 million of them.
Here it comes.
State of California, 75% of our black boys cannot pass standard reading and writing tests, a democratic state.
Thank you.
So, yes, let's pay restoration. Let's pay restitution. How about a Democratic Party pay for all the misery brought to my race? And those, after we learn our history, decide to stay there, they should pay also. They're complicit. And every white American, Republican or Democrat, that feels guilty because of your white skin, you should need to pony up also.
Yes.
That way we get past this reparation and recognize that this country has given us greatness. Look at this panel. It doesn't matter how we think. The fact is, well, it doesn't matter our color. We have become successful in this country like no other because of this great opportunity to live the American dream. Let's not steal that from our kids by telling them they can't do it. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Our next witness will be the Right Reverend Eugene Taylor Sutton.
And they didn't want to hear any of that at all.
Oops.
But historically, that's accurate. We had Robert Byrd, a Democrat, and a KKK Grand Wizard.
Is that high?
Yes, that's very high. In the Senate that people were working with, a Democrat. He wasn't a Republican, and he was feted as a Democrat, as one of the grand old people of the Senate, as a Democrat, as a KKK member. He eschewed the KKK, but at one time he was one of its highest members. And because he was a Democrat, that was conveniently forgotten. Imagine that. Imagine my shock.
Democrats started with the Democrats did not bring about the changes in our country related to civil rights and liberties. This was Republican administrations who, for example, the desegregation of schools. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that was Dwight Eisenhower.
I believe you're correct.
A Republican.
Yes, imagine that.
Imagine that. The Democrats were very much against desegregation and everything else. As a matter of fact, LBJ only signed the Bill of the Bill of Rights, the Civil Rights Act, which I think was authored by Republicans, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Because he understood that he needed to be on the winning side of history.
Politically speaking,
yes.
He had two sides of his face. He had the public side.
Yes, Kaiser, 209 number.
And he had the private side. And I don't mind. I'll say what was a quote attributed to him for quite some time, and people have said also for quite some time. This was never truly attributed to him, except I found a reference which indicates that one of his black butlers in the White House overheard Lyndon Baines Johnson say, "I'll have them niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years when I sign this piece of legislation."
Yep.
And that's how callous and calculating LBJ was at the time.
Yes.
But he knew politically that it had to be signed.
Yes. And he was right. Not in his use of the term he used, but he was correct.
He was politically astute sufficiently to recognize that had to be done.
Yes.
In according to that statement, in one of the most callous ways possible, in one of the coldest ways possible.
And you know what's interesting is now, so you look at the Democratic presidential candidate debates, right? And the Democratic Party is pushing so far left that Joe Scarborough on MSNBC actually went off about how Trump is going to win if they continue down this path. But I don't think that that hardcore group within the Democratic Party, I don't think they can help themselves. I really believe that they are going to have a nominee.
They're not going to help themselves.
And Trump is already astute enough as a politician and as a businessman. His campaign is already against socialism.
Why, he made that part of his State of the Union speech.
Yes, and even the Democrats stood and clapped for that. So, can you imagine? Think about the business sense on this guy, and I think I see the direction he's going with this. He's campaigning against socialism. It's Donald Trump, or it is a socialist America. What's your choice? And he can play his State of the Union speech where he says the United States of America will never be socialist, and he has almost the entire House of Representatives standing up applauding him, including Nancy Pelosi. What a smart political play. And the Democrats, well, I won't say the Democrats, I will say the far left element within the Democratic Party, the militant part of the party, they can't help themselves.
No, they can. I think.
I mean, there's the strategy right there.
They are completely unable to do that. We're gonna have to take a break. When we come back, on the heels of what Clint just said, in terms of people saying that, you know who won the debates? Donald Trump won the debates. And in order also to buttress the quote that you just had, I have audio of that. I'm gonna play that.
Tonight I do want to get into some world issues going on tonight as well.
I've got a ton of those as well. Folks, it's Sackheads Clint, Sackheads BZ. We are the Shot Show, the Sackheads against tyranny.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corruption, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network. For half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second hour of the Sackheads Against Tyranny, the shot show, a real shot show. And we are in the SHR Media Network studios. And let's see, there's Sackheads Clint.
Hello.
Over there. Come on, change the screen. Sackheads Clint. There we go. Now he's frowning. Okay. That's what makes a good radio host, is a frown.
I have a face for radio. I was told that from very young.
That's right. So, turn that frown upside down. I told you that MSNBC, we're going to go over some audio and some stories about the presidential debates. There were 2 of them, 10 2 subsequent days, 10 people each. It was a bevy of leftists, essentially.
A bevy?
A bevy of leftists, some more stupid than others, but basically it was a round-robin competition to see who could pass the leftist purity tests, because now the Nazis had purity tests and leftists have purity tests themselves, so they were scrambling all over each other to see who actually did pass the purity test. Here's MSNBC's Donnie Deutsch saying, I don't see anybody at the first Democratic debate who could actually beat Trump. Really?
My issue, unfortunately, and do not shoot the messenger, is the messenger. I do not believe Elizabeth Warren on stage with Donald Trump beats him. I think she's delightful. I think she's wonderful. I'm a big fan. I just don't think she has what it takes to beat this president.
Donnie, I say this respectfully, zero value.
I disagree with you. I disagree with that, Lawrence. It's understanding human behavior.
Me in a similar
Don't tell me it has zero value. Don't tell me it has zero value. It's understanding human behavior.
It's a guess. It's a wild guess, Donnie.
It's understanding human behavior.
They do not like to hear that.
90% of our audience
it's a wild guess. There's no science in it. There's nothing in it.
There's no science in any of this.
And no one can make it. You can put any name you want in the wild guess that you just made, and it doesn't make it true.
I am understanding what Donald Trump, the way he connects with this country and the strength he exudes. We need to exude a stronger strength. It's not a policy discussion.
This is the pure guesswork section of the discussion.
This is a guy who's done this for 30 years and watched human behavior.
Standing by with Beto O'Rourke.
Okay. See, that's what I love is you've got leftists opposing leftists over this kind of stuff.
But this was my point that I was talking about a little bit ago.
That's why I played it,
right?
Because it went to your point specifically.
Yes, look.
Couldn't have been better.
It's speculation. The whole thing's speculation. That's what I liked about that response. All of the polling were wrong, folks, in 2016. All of the polling was wrong.
This is also, I love this one, too. By the way, after the debates, NBC ran a poll, okay? And they ran an analysis, and the NBC News analysis said this. They declared Donald Trump the winner of the first Democratic debate. NBC News analysts declared President Trump was the winner of the first Democratic presidential debate of the 2020 election cycle. I repeat, this is NBC. Author, reporter Jonathan Allen expressed surprise that Trump emerged largely unscathed as the field of 10 candidates mostly avoided direct attacks on him. If you watched it, and I did in retrospect, I didn't watch it live. I didn't have the time I was doing, the show, for example. It's true. None of them really threw lawn darts at Donald Trump. They were throwing that crap at each other. It was grand.
Yeah. How can they throw lawn darts at Donald Trump? His economy is the strongest. Is the strongest it's been in how many years, BZ?
Oh, I think it was 40
30,
years.
40, okay. So lowest African-American unemployment rate ever. Lowest female and highest wages for females in, 30, 40 years?
Yeah.
Something
lowest
like that.
Hispanic unemployment rate.
So how do you argue? We will never see 3% growth. What was it? Almost 3.9% growth that we have. How do you attack that? You have to attack the personality of Donald Trump.
It's like an attorney. If the facts are not going with you, you have to attack the person themselves.
If the facts are with you, argue the facts. If the law is with you, argue the law. If neither the facts nor the law are with you, just argue like hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Here's another. This is great. This is great. Here's another article from Piers Morgan.
He's a huge Trump supporter.
Who said, folks, if you're watching on video right now, and you should be looking at the visage displayed across the gazette of Sackhead's Clint over there. It was grand. It was a sight to see. Piers Morgan, a true Trump supporter, says 2020 is looking like deja vu. Democrats are spewing the same entitled, arrogant nonsense as 2016. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get any better than that. It's grand. Okay. Let me see if I have any quotes here. Some polls might look worrisome for Donald Trump, but British TV host Piers Morgan said the 2020 presidential election feels like deja vu at this stage. He's writing for the Daily Mail, and he says that despite polling behind Joe Biden in head-to-head matchups and in some key swing states, Trump didn't look like a guy who was going to lose when he kicked off his campaign Tuesday night at a rally in Orlando, Florida. Well, since then, a few things have occurred. Biden went kind of head-to-head against Kamala Harris in the second round.
And lost.
And kind of got his ass handed to her by Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. So he's lost points. He also lost, I should point out, a campaign, not a campaign chair, but a campaign person for the campaign itself. Joe Biden is not doing all that great. I find that very interesting. Oh, gosh, I have got so much stuff in here. Let's see if I can go back and do some audio stuff right now. There's a bunch of stuff that's been happening in California. I want to play this for you. I wanted to play this on my show. Kaiser says Biden is a cunt. Okay, I'll go along with that. Hey, welcome to 3 viewers who are not named right now. Welcome. This is from Real Time. This is Bill Maher, and I've been wanting to play this cut for a while because when we talk about the loony left, this is prototypical about the loony left. And this is Bill Maher saying that President Trump, if he loses in 2020, he's not just intimating, but he's saying, you know what? He's not going.
For what you think about, not necessarily predictions, but what do you imagine happening going forward? In whatever political way is relevant.
One of those things, to take up your point that I've been talking about for years now, almost 3 years, that a lot of people are talking about now, is that if he loses Trump, he won't go. I've been saying that since before he got elected, that if he loses the second time, if he loses the coming election,
if he loses the second time, this is Bill Maher screwing up his words.
No, I think he did that on purpose.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because think about it. They always tout how he lost the popular vote and that he lost that he should have lost. I think he said that on purpose if he lost the second time. I don't think he was screwing up his words at all. I think that was calculated.
This is loony.
Everyone said that. Nancy Pelosi said that. A lot of people now, and I think that we have to worry about, because a lot of people say, well, yes, it can happen here, meaning fascism, meaning something other than what was democracy. Now, I think we're already there.
We're not a fucking democracy, you jackass.
The news.
Okay, stop.
We are not a fucking democracy.
This is a perfect point for Sackhead Clint's intervention. Sackhead Clint is conducting an intervention for Bill Maher. This is not a democracy. What is this?
We are a representative republic. We are a republic. They want us to be a pure democracy.
Oh, they want to eliminate the Electoral College.
Democrat. We like representative government. Republicans. Why do we like representative government? Because then the minority does not get crushed. You don't have mob rule, which is majority rule, where the rights and the theories and the thoughts of the people who don't think or act like you are upheld or have a voice or are allowed to exist. We are a fucking republic, you stupid fucking jackass. Read a goddamn book. Understand what the fuck you're talking about before you open that hole under your nose.
They don't want to. And they truly don't. They don't want to, or it's purposeful, or they just don't care about history.
I think it's a combination of ignorance and or blatant misdirection.
I'll attach it to purposeful as well.
And I'm going to say this,
or misdirection, sure.
And I'm going to say, I'm going to say this. I will say that if it is those that do this on purpose to maintain power, to maintain a position of power, are far worse than those who are simply ignorant. Ignorance can be fixed. Ignorance, you can educate, like Burgess Owens was his name, correct?
Right.
Like Burgess Owens was talking about. I used to be a Democrat before I was informed, before I was enlightened, right? You can and look, there are Democrats. I will concede this, and this is going to get me a whole bunch of hate mail, and that's cool. There are Democrats who are enlightened. There are Democrats who are educated. There are Democrats who have constitutional basis for their belief system. I'm not talking about progressive Democrats, but I'm talking about those blue dog Democrats, those moderate Democrats. There are those who believe still in border security. They're very few and far between now that believe in border security, believe in the Constitution as a rule of law.
Well,
they're
cowed and fearful of saying something.
But what I'm saying is there are Democrats that have that, who are educated and so forth. And it is possible to have certain viewpoints and still having a constitutional basis for whatever your argument is. Correct? There's a constitutional basis and argument for the states still having the authority to secede, and for states not being able to secede. I can make a constitutional argument both ways on that. And I liken it to certain religions where you have certain sects of the Christian religion where they agree on its base on, say, certain points of biblical principles. However, there are points of disagreement among the various religions that there is still biblical principles for. For example, predestination, Calvinism, all those things, right? The idea of predestined salvation versus the idea of I make a choice to accept Christ and therefore I'm saved, right? So both of those are supported in Scripture one way or another. It's within accepted orthodox, but yet you can have those various views which give us some various denominations within our religions. I submit that you can have the same thing on a political level. You can have those same differences between Democrats and Republicans. I think that those who typically vote Republican have a deeper understanding of American history and the history of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta, all those things. Again, not saying that all Democrats don't have that, but I think that an ignorance as to what our history is and really what those documents represent and the ideals that we came from and the journey that it took to get us to where we are in terms of independence and the Constitution and so forth, most people do not have a fundamental understanding of that.
No, and I would submit, and I had a great show.
That's not as bad.
That's
not as bad. I'm sorry, BZ. I want to finish this thought. That's not as bad as those who do have that understanding and want to keep people ignorant.
And
that is fucking slavery.
And then go out of their way to do that. I had people. My show last night was nothing but 2 hours of people calling in and telling me and telling everybody what the United States meant to them. And part and parcel of that was, I asked the question, for example, I think it was of Earl Jackson, and I said, what percentile of U.S. senators, Congress people, etc., do you think have actually read all of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and, say, the Federalist Papers and or the Anti-Federalist Papers? And it was, I don't know, we both agreed that maybe it was 20% or less. And that is a slap in the face to the American public. It's a disservice to anybody in D.C. Mm-hmm. I want to continue with Bill Maher while I've still got this up here.
Sorry,
people,
I had to intervene.
I know, that's okay.
Dictator checklist that I read on my show sometimes, things that no president.
Okay, come on, keep going.
American president has ever done, but this president does. Appointing your family to key government positions. This is banana republic
So
stuff.
you think he wouldn't leave?
That is one of them. I absolutely think he will not leave.
So, okay. So I guess the vision then is that somebody's going to have to go in and drag Donald Trump kicking and screaming out of the Oval Office? Is that how absolutely insane these people are? And I would suggest at this point in history, yeah, When Bill Maher tells me this to my face on national HBO television, I can either believe that he's full of crap or that he's saying something that I believe he really truly thinks will occur. That's how.
Or he's saying it for shock value because he understands who his audience is.
Yeah, but we've
done that. We've said things for value because we understand who our audience is. Now, granted, we don't spew bullshit.
You're the contrarian.
I am the contrarian,
and I'll be the first to recognize that officially. But yeah, I agree. Okay.
I see the wheels spinning.
I know. I kind of want to go somewhere. I kind of want to go somewhere right now. And
we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a big story.
You mentioned international, and it's funny because I see that Kaiser's on the line. So hang on, Kaiser, because we're going to go somewhere with this. And I have lined up here a bunch of stories that are international in scope. One of them that I'll just mention briefly, and I found this interesting. A lot of people didn't read this story. I posted it on a couple of law enforcement sites. This is from lawenforcementtoday.com. The headline was, FBI terrorists are looking to strike America on Independence Day. And a lot of folks responded to those articles in two law enforcement sites that I post to by saying, yeah, but those aren't the real terrorists. Let me read a couple of paragraphs here so that folks understand what the article's really about. Police departments across America are being put on alert that terrorists are looking to strike on Independence Day. And this time it's not just ISIS they're worried about. Investigators are making it clear that one of the concerns this year is domestic terrorists. The department comes from the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, National Counterterrorism Center, and it's indicated that while there is no specific threat, there are concerns that all types of terrorists could strike on the holiday. There's that.
Is it? I wonder if they put that out because they know Antifa is going to be going to the D.C. event.
I would expect. That's a story for another day. But this is a very interesting story that was sent to me yesterday, and Kaiser can't wait to get on. I know he can't get. Right now, Kaiser, because we discussed this late last night, actually late or very, very early this morning. Now Kaiser's going to get steamed. And I'm not going to let him on just yet because I'm going to read the story. But we discussed the story, and we discussed the issues that are involved with this. So I want to read this and two more stories, and then I want to bring Kaiser on. Somebody sent this to me from the Debka file, which is Israeli in nature. And it's
Is it legitimate?
The story...
Is it legitimate?
The story makes sense in one fashion, with the exception of one glaring sentence up early in the story, which makes no sense whatsoever. So it's a very poorly written article, but I want to give people the gist of what's happening.
Well, hang on a second. Is the Debka a legitimate news organization?
It is let's put it this way, it's an organ for the Israelis. And as Kaiser and I discussed early this morning, the Israelis are their own best friends.
Yes.
The Israelis are for the Israelis. Let's make sure we understand that very clearly up front.
I almost think, let me pose this to you. What if we talk about the initial story?
But I want to throw this out there.
What if we talk about the initial story first and tie it together with that Israeli story and let people formulate their own?
Okay, but the story is in this one, and maybe I'll hold here's what I'll do. I'll read the rest of this story because the rest of this is believable except for that one sentence. Tell you what, I'll leave that sentence out, and then you tell me after all the other stories. I've got a Reuters story, and you can't tell me that Reuters isn't
Newsweek,
a considerable news outlet or organization.
I found a Newsweek story. Did you find
a
Newsweek one?
No, I haven't.
I'll send that one to you.
Okay, I've got that, and there's another story that I discovered, and then something that occurred with Vice President Pence yesterday as well.
And
Vladimir Putin. Oh, you're right. So we'll tie this all together. Now,
at the same time.
I'm going to start with what I was made aware of, however, chronologically, from the Debka file.
Oh, I was going to think chronologically of how events unfolded.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
In terms of how this was unfolded to...
The events themselves, or from your perspective as
from the events as they were revealed chronologically.
Okay, go.
Debka file, this is the headline, urgent consultations in Washington, Moscow on reported U.S.-Russian submarines in firefight. Now, if that doesn't grab your attention, I don't know what the hell will. Diane Shalem wrote this. First reports reaching Debka files, military sources, say that a U.S. submarine intercepted a Russian nuclear sub in American waters opposite Alaska. We know already there is a kernel of truth in that. The second sentence I'm not going to read. I'll go to the third sentence. Urgent consultations in both the White House and the Kremlin were taking place on Tuesday night. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence called off an appearance in New Hampshire after being recalled to Washington for a conference called by President Donald Trump without explanation. Russian President Vladimir Putin canceled an engagement and headed for the Kremlin to confer with Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and military chiefs after learning that 14 submariners died in a fire that broke out on a nuclear-powered experimental submarine in Russian waters. This account, carried in Russia media, varies in most respects from the first reports reaching this site and may refer to a separate incident. The report indicates between 14 and 17 members of an AS-12 nuclear-powered submarine died of poisonous fumes caused by a fire aboard the vessel. The submarine was described as experimental and unarmed, but often used in spy missions. It is unclear how many of the 25 crew survived. Local media suggest 4 or 5 are receiving treatment in Severomorsk's military hospital. I'm butchering Russian. For poisoning and concussion injuries. Another news account said the majority of the officers died in or on their way to hospital. These reports do not cite the cause of the fire. Now that I've revealed that story to you, and I got 2 more minutes to go, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and continue to talk about this. Now that you've heard the bulk of the story, let me throw that one sentence in that it makes no mistake, and to me it's glaringly misleading. The second sentence in the entire first paragraph is, the Russian sub escorting the nuclear submarine responded with a Balkan 2000 torpedo and scuttled the U.S. vessel. That's the worst written sentence that I've read in quite some time, completely unattributed. And in the rest of the article, there's nothing that addresses that massive bombshell on sentence number 2. The Russian sub escorting the nuclear submarine. The Russian sub escorting what nuclear submarine? Whose nuclear submarine? It doesn't say. Responded with a Balkan 2000 torpedo. The article then goes on to say that they were unarmed. Then it says, and scuttled the U.S. vessel. The U.S. vessel. What U.S. vessel? Because that sentence number 2, should be a standalone sentence by itself. It makes no damned sense at all. But it's like taking a bombshell and pulling the pin on a grenade and just throwing it in a room and just watch the blood and guts.
But so here's my problem with this article. And there are several articles out there now. I mentioned Newsweek has an article out that talks about it, that talks about kind of the sequence of events for what has actually transpired. The problem I have with that article is, number one, I'm completely unfamiliar with that news source.
Kaiser's. When Kaiser comes on, he's going to tell you about it.
So
Kaiser, don't go away.
I have no idea if it's legitimate or not, and I do want to get into this. But some of the facts we do know, and I'll just sum it up. We'll cut to break, and then we'll come back for further discussion on this issue. The facts as we know it. We think we know it anyways. A Russian submarine was conducting operations in the Arctic Ocean, which, by the way, the Arctic Ocean is just north of Alaska. That's all I'm saying. Alaska, one of our states with several military bases. Anyways, a Russian submarine was operating in the Arctic. We know that the Russians are trying to colonize and settle the Arctic. energy and all these other reasons, right?
Exactly.
We know that. So we know that something happened on board that Russian submarine. We know that 14 people at least are dead. We know the Russian submarine was towed back to a facility in Russia, close to Alaska. And we know then that Vice President Mike Pence gets recalled to Washington, D.C., or told you're not leaving Washington, D.C. And right about the same time, the Russian President Putin also cancels an appearance. So you put all those things together, and I think you have a circumstantial case that something with geopolitical consequences happened involving the Russian submarine in the Arctic Sea off the coast of Alaska.
Okay, that's a perfect time to take a break because we're gonna parse all of that. We're gonna talk about extra stories that just came out. And we're going to bring Kaiser Schuff, who knows a lot of stuff about the military, back on because he and I discussed this very same scenario last night, and he had very insightful opinions to proffer about that.
Oh, and you also had a U.S., what was it, the U.S. general that came out talking about, well, here's what would happen in strike options with Russia if they launched on us and we had to respond?
Yeah, well, all that and more, folks, when we come back. You're listening to The Shat Show, the Sackheads Against Tyranny, and that's Sackheads Clint. I'm Sackheads BZ. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m., right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are back. I am Sackheads BZ. That is Sackheads Clint over there. And we have got an article that is lighting people up all across the planet, to also include the person that's calling in. We talked about a scenario that occurred recently where some people were alleging it was in an Israeli penned article that said that American submarines were fired upon. Here's another article that I spoke in reference to. This is from Reuters, and I'd since discovered during the break another article from ABC. And then, Clint, you said you had one from Newsweek or Time?
Newsweek that I sent to you. I have a Reuters article claiming Russia accused of a cover-up.
That's the one I'm looking at right
over
now.
the lethal submarine fire.
Yep.
And then I have one from Newsweek as well, which talks about Russia submarine fire kills 14, sparks concern as Vladimir Putin and Mike Pence change plans at the same time.
Yes.
So even Newsweek is tying this shite together.
But the funny thing is, I haven't really heard this on television much at all. From Reuters, Russian officials faced accusations of trying to cover up the full details of an accident on board a military submarine that killed 14 sailors, but the Kremlin on Wednesday defended its record. Then the article from ABC. This came out 16 hours ago. Today, Russia says submarine on which fire killed 14, boy, that's a poorly written article headline, is a top-secret vessel. The Kremlin said it will not identify the Russian military submarine where 14 sailors were killed in a fire because the vessel is top secret. Russian media reports have increasingly...
That should tell you something.
That's kind of a clue. Russian media reports have increasingly suggested it was a secretive nuclear-powered submersible used for deepwater exploration
or exfiltration
and perhaps spying. Well, that tells you a great deal right there, because if it only carries, 20 or 30 persons, that's a hell of a lot fewer individuals than a standard Russian submarine. Okay, and I know he's chomping on the bit. He's chomping on anything that he can find right now. Perhaps he's even chomping.
Yeah, stop it! Look at him! Look at this video. He is just all smiles.
Okay, what? I don't know what that's about.
What did you do? BC, you have one job.
I know. I can't figure out where that's coming from. Okay.
You have one job.
You know what?
Bring him in.
No, I know where that's coming from.
If he calls.
No, now I stopped it. Okay. I know where it came from. That was a technical error. Now.
No, it was not. It was not a technical error.
It was a glitch. It wasn't my fault. Kaiser, was it my fault?
No, it wasn't. I was chomping on some dirty olives, so you got it exactly right, Brother Mang.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Who's dirty olive?
Filthy olive, dirty olive.
You know, I'm eating the filthy dirty olives, baby. But the point being is, look, the Debka files is Mossad run. That's a fact.
Yep.
Okay.
Nobody can dispute.
I have no idea. I've never heard of them before.
Well,
they've been around for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of my bailiwick.
Yeah, no, I know that. Are they pretty accurate in their reporting?
Never.
Okay.
I'll tell you, here's the first I learned of it. And I contacted, because I was on another show last night, a brother of mine wanted to use this on the show, and we didn't, because it was from, let me see, his link was from MSNBC, I think. Let me look.
Okay.
Yeah, MSN. MSN is where it came from, MSN.com. Could this be why Pence was drawn back? And I made some calls, and people were like, nah. And but here's what I will say. Do you remember there was a submarine called Curse? Hold on. Before I get into this, I have to respond to something you guys said earlier, and I got to tie it in that what happens in the U.S. is functionally, at this point, global. And what I mean by that, Cloward and Piven little dust up in the chat, just to clarify, that is the system they were using here, but it all stems from something called the Kalergi Plan that's supposed to be used against the whole West, which is communist. And if you want to see the fruits of that, look at California's Attorney General yesterday, or today. Actually, I don't know. Is it today or yesterday he did it, where he said, hey, employers, you turn your people over to ICE, we'll come after you legally. So we're talking secessionism. And this is what's going on in your state, and I hope you both get out of it. Now, going back globally, do you guys remember what happened on the Kursk?
I do, and we talked about that last night. It was a situation in which a nuclear reactor, and again, you correct me if I'm wrong, Kaiser Schuff, got away from Russians because the Russians in general don't have quite the wonderful nuclear program on submarines that we do.
Didn't they have another problem also where there was a Freon release within the submarine as well?
Yep.
That was
they have look, when you're dealing with the nuclear genie, look, here's something a lot of people don't know. President Carter, why I disagree with him politically wholeheartedly, he was probably one of the most intelligent men we've ever had in the White House. He, just like Angela Merkel, he was a nuclear sub-captain. He was probably a physicist, and that's probably classed. And because usually they are.
Yes, I knew that he was a nuker.
Is a physicist. But nobody wants to talk about these things. But the reality is that their missile program, or their submarine program and their missile programs, have had systemic issues forever. Mm-hmm. During the Cold War, their missiles had a 50% dud rate. That means 50% of their boomers that would fly towards us would not go off. And we knew this. The Israelis knew this. I also talked about this with BZ briefly. When you see this coming up and you notice certain war hawks, look, I have to give one respectful comment to Tulsi Gabbard or Giffords, whatever her name is. She's anti-war just like I am. Look, we've seen war. We know what that looks like. And none of us ever want war, except I get my drug from it. That's my fix, honestly. So I don't mind it. I'm comfortable in it. But my son's in the Marine Corps. Do I want him to go over there? No. But as I tell him, if you go over there, don't make me assemble a bunch of people to get your ass out of there. And I mean that. And he knows this. So barring all that, now that we've gotten that out of the way, what you're looking at is basically a Kursk event. And the same thing happened when the Kursk went down. What they did was cover it up, hide everything, and of course, Putin's going to get on the phone, Trump's going to get on the phone, and the vice president, wherever he's going. The first initial reports from that MSN said that Pence was on his way to go visit Putin, which was bullshit. And, of course, you know this now. But that was the initial report from MSN. At 10:39 last night, I had to pull it up on my Skype to make sure I was not giving you a false time. And then I made calls before the show, and I was like, nah, that's not what happened. It's a cover-up. It's not a false flag. I saw that in our comments.
Right.
And it is an accident that happened and the cover-up that ensues.
Kaiser,
and they're not the Soviet Union anymore. They're Russian. Okay, I'm sorry. Am I stepping on somebody?
No. I was gonna say let me ask you a question, because I think there's another theory out there, and I'm gonna defer to you in terms of U.S. positioning of nuclear submarines. Typically, my understanding is there's typically, and the U.S. still typically maintains 2 boomers kind of on patrol on the global scale. I don't know if that's still accurate or not, or if that's what's going on, or if there are more or less or whatever. But that's my understanding. I don't know what submarines we have operating in the Arctic, because I do know that the Russians are big in colonizing the Arctic and claiming the Arctic for energy purposes and so forth. And understanding that the Arctic Ocean is right there, right along the northern portion of Alaska, where we have several significant military installations within Alaska.
Found another article.
Is there a possibility that we had a blind man's bluff incident kind of go awry, where we potentially had a sub shadowing this other sub or whatever, and either there was an inadvertent bumping, because you look at the naval incidents we've had even recently between Russian surface vessels and how they interact with U.S. vessels, or is it possible, and I think this is less likely, but I'm just talking about possibility, is it possible that this Russian submarine was operating within U.S. waters and was fired upon?
My thoughts on this, okay? Both of those sound cool. I mean, that's awesome. That's the stuff of Tom Clancy. In reality, I think, yeah, of course they operate. Look, I was stationed on Naval Air Station Adak, Alaska, the Aleutians. And, fuck, everybody can research this. How many islands in the Aleutians chain did Obama sell back to Russia? See, people forget this. We actually sold a couple of our islands back to them. Did you know this?
No, I had no idea.
I didn't know this.
Well, why don't you research it?
I'm going to do that.
I'm telling the truth.
You keep talking, and I'll do that.
No problem. They encroach on our waters. We encroach on theirs. I mean, that's just the game.
Mm-hmm.
But brinksmanship is something that only professionals play. And there has been a time during the Cold War when the wall was up, so I can't say it's never happened, but it happens so rarely that it's not even a blip on the map.
Right, and I understand it has happened before, but I look, and the reason I ask, hey, is it possible? And I'm not saying is it likely or is it this probably what happened. All I'm saying is it possible? And the reason I say that is because I look at the increase in Russian activity. A couple years ago, they started their 24/7 patrols in the global oceans again with their boomers.
As we do,
as we do now. But after the fall of the Soviet Union, they stopped. They didn't have a global presence with their nuclear ballistic missile submarines, and they started that again a couple years ago under Putin. You look at, there's been increased activity of their aircraft kind of coming up towards California and towards Alaska, where we've had intercepts of those aircraft. It never fully stopped, but we've seen an uptick in those. There are bombers circling Guam and those sorts of things. There has been an uptick in, I don't want to say provocative, but in Cold War style incidents involving Russian aircraft and surface ships and submarine activity as well. And that's why I'm asking, hey, is this a possibility as a result?
Manned space flight's possible.
Right.
I mean, that's my opinion of it. Anything's possible. But from what I have to be cautious on what I say. The event was, as I stated, were they close to us? I honestly did not get the answer on do I believe they were near Alaska? Probably were. Okay, they had to be towed in. That means they had to surface.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's going to tell even me that. That's what I'll tell you. They're not going to tell me where it happened.
Right.
But they would say the basics of it. Is this BS because it's out in public knowledge? And they'd say, yeah, no, that's bullshit. What I will say about that, I heard you say they decreased and stuff. Look, just like every scenario you've ever heard about the Bubba effect in America, where Bubba gets sick of it and there becomes a civil war in America. Period. That's the Bubba effect. And you've probably never even heard of this, but it's war gamed every year.
I've heard of it.
And anyways, the Navy sets sail, and it's to keep their nation safe, okay? Because the Navy is really going to be the only thing to keep outsiders out of any country. And that's kind of standard operating procedure for continuity of government operations for both us and the Rodina, Russia, the old Soviet Union. Rodina is just Mother Russia in Russian. The point being is their Navy never stopped patrolling. And there was just, look, the guy who took charge after Gorbachev was totally in our belt. He was, how do I describe Yeltsin? He was a drunk, easily controllable. That's when you saw the KGB, GRU actually consolidate with the Russian mafia. That's why everybody who's KGB, GRU, me and BZ briefly touched on this last night, and that's all I'll say on it. But there's people that own corporations that you wouldn't even believe. And they're known, but the American public doesn't know them. Most people in the West don't even know that that's what they do and what they were. And that's why you saw everywhere except Ukraine, there was a female that was elected there who was a model. And they smeared her up, got her out because of KGB and GRU ops. And you were exactly right when you talked about, I think it was you, talking about the Ukraine earlier. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a show I heard from somebody else. But the Ukraine, when they came in Crimea and the different things they did, just like they did in Syria, contractors, quote unquote. I did a show on this. And you can use military members along with contractors, but you're getting the same product. They're trained by the same people, just like I was. And I may work with active duty sometimes, and I have. And you may get just regular soldier of fortunes. But there's a bailiwick between them. When you're working for your nation state, you're a contractor. You're not a mercenary. And that's my point to it. Anyway, so like I said, I debunked this, except I believe it was a fire. I believe that they're covering it up. And I do not believe, look, when the Kursk went down, of course the U.S. is going to worry about it because now you have a nuclear accident off the coast of somewhere. And if the vessel sinks, it's now in your cleanup. You're now going to have to make that a Superfund site, just like Fukushima, and just like what was that we had in the 70s, out there in was that New York or
3 Mile Island?
Where
3 Mile Island?
3 Mile in Ashland,
Yeah, TMI.
So I mean, these are real things.
Hey, Kaiser, let me run this article by you here real quick, because I found another one in the process of researching this just now. This is from a site called Futurism.com, and again, I want to have you weigh in on this, because we already had something similar to this, and when I tell you the phrase, when I tell you the name, you're going to probably go, oh yeah, 1971, Ivy Bells, Project Ivy Bells. I'm going to get to that in a second. From Futurism.com, Russian sub that caught fire, possibly sent to cut internet cables, and it may have been nuclear-powered too. On Monday, Russian submarine caught fire during a mission, killing 14 sailors on board. The public didn't find out about the incident until the next day when Russia finally released a statement about the accident, though 2 days after the event, the nation still wouldn't say exactly what kind of sub caught fire or whether it was nuclear-powered. A possible reason for Russian caginess, multiple sources are now claiming the sub was an AS-12 Losharik, a nuclear-powered submarine some speculate was designed to cut the undersea cables that deliver internet to the world. Russian media outlets RBC and Novaya Gazeta have both cited anonymous sources who claim the submarine was a Losharik, and while the sub has been in operation since 2003, Russia has never come out and declared its official purpose. Stop. Let's go back to 1971, when we were playing cat and mouse with submarines, etc., during the Cold War.
Blind Man's Bluff.
Blind Man's Bluff. Operation, what did I just say it was? Ivy Bells. Operation Ivy Bells. We sent, and this was so cool. Folks, don't know if you even heard about this. But we did this exact same thing. In 1971, we sent the USS Halibut into Russian waters. We sent divers out of this into a Russian bay less than a mile from Russia proper. Divers went in and tapped a cable where it was taking information. We were less than a mile off Russia's coast with an entire submarine. Put the tap there, left, came back, and on occasion would grab the information from that cable. That's how long we've been doing this for quite some time. Kaiser, is it possible this might have been that thing's job for a while?
Scroll up.
Right. They were SILs that did that op. That's a fact. But that was back in the 70s, and what they were going after was just like we did in Berlin.
Yeah, it was nothing different. It was just wetter.
It was just gathering information. If it's discovered, of course, there'll be something that made of it or whatever. But honestly, this one, they may have been doing that.
Fuck?
I'm not going to say they weren't. But the fact remains, they had a problem somehow.
Okay.
Maybe the divers exiting, coming back, something happened to cause a fire. And,
that's fast.
It just depends. I don't know the situation. Nobody knows. But there was a fire.
Yeah.
And the more important part is they're saying people died from toxic smoke. Well, that means there was probably a breach in the reactor. All those poisons coming out with high heat and steam, that's an issue. And people think of reactors like these big nuclear plants. Folks, the ones in naval vessels, they're not that big.
No. There are nuclear reactors on Air Force bases that are used to magnaflux parts and examine and X-ray wings, aircraft, fuselages. You have radiation in hospitals.
Now there's something.
But you found something
here.
very, very unique here.
So
Clint.
we have 2 minutes left, and so a search on Wikipedia. If you look up Russian submarine Losharik, a search on Wikipedia under this heading pulls up. There's a section called 2019 fire.
Already.
Now, no information. As I understand it, no official information has come out yet. If you go to Wikipedia and look up Losharik, you can find 2019 fire, where it says, quoting from Wikipedia, a fire broke out on the vessel on 1 July 2019 while it was taking underwater measurements on the seafloor in Russian territorial waters. 14 of the crew were killed by inhalation of smoke or toxic fumes. 7 of those who died held the rank of first-rank captain, and 2 were recipients of the Hero of the Russian Federation of War. Submarine commander Denis Stolonsky was among those killed. The fire broke out around 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time and was extinguished by the crew. Fishermen in Yura Bay reported they saw the submarine surface rapidly at around 9:30 p.m. and met a Navy ship and 2 tugs. The vessel was later towed to the Russian Northern Fleet base of Severomorsk. I probably fucked that pronunciation up.
It's
where
Russian.
where 5 survivors were hospitalized with smoke poisoning and concussion. and concussion. The
that
incident
means they.
Yeah, sorry. The incident was the worst loss of life on a Russian submarine since 2018 K-152 Nerpa accident, which killed 20. The commander-in-chief of the Russian Navy, blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
so,
can I stop you here for just a second?
Yeah, I'm done because
Okay.
we're out of showtime.
Okay, but let me
why
throw
the
this...
fuck is that already all over Wikipedia
Let me
when no...
throw this out
Go
there.
ahead.
Do you want to do a little overtime tonight? Or do you have to leave?
We can do it.
No, I can do it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to do this with the stinger. You can do another 5?
I can do 5.
Okay. We're going to do this with a stinger, and we're going to go and extend this for about another 5 minutes. Okay?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
So, after having been Kaiser Schuff, how did that information make it over to Wikipedia so fast with details that I didn't have, that you didn't have?
I haven't seen any stories.
And we haven't seen any articles with this information. How does that happen? And more importantly, Kaiser Schuff, why?
Well, I'll tell you this. It was on a SIGINT mission. That is, to be sure, and the reason why I know that is that means they bumped the bottom. So they probably did something. Now, the rank structure is good because that tells me it was definitely heavy with tech guys. Okay, this is a fact. Because you don't have 2 captains on a vessel. Okay, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
And they got people with heroes of the Russian Republic. Notice they still call themselves a republic now. They're proud of being a federation, right? Imagine that. That goes back to what you guys were talking about earlier. We've lost pride in being Americans. You want to know why? Because of the division sown for the last 8 years before this president. Now, after saying that, I'll step off my political pontification and put on my wonky hat. Do you know who funds Wikipedia? Who started it?
Leftists? But specifically,
the Hindenburg Foundation, the Ford Foundation. Yes, all leftist organizations.
Yes.
And so they're going to put out. You're going to see mad propaganda go up on Wiki.
Yep.
I put actual facts up on Wiki pages. One of them, me and BZ talked about off air last night, and we won't talk about it ever on air. But a situation happened that I know everything about. And you go to Wiki and look it up, it's like some fantasy.
Is it even there?
Yeah, it's there.
It's actually on Wikipedia. Okay, I'm kind of surprised, actually.
Yeah. So, anyways, the point being is, it's very easy to see when you see something as abhorrent as what happened in Oregon to that young gentleman, Vietnamese in nature, homosexual, and
right,
his
the journalist,
get beaten down, and now for the first time, Antifa is being said not to be the heroes that CNN said they were. The first time I've ever seen them stand. Tim Pool's done it. Everybody said what they are. But you know what? When they're talking about taking Thomas Jefferson, don't be shocked. Me and BZ knew each other back after 2017. I was in Seville. I bodyguarded Mike Steiner, the mayor of Seville in Afghanistan in 2010 for the elections. I know what he's about. This is a fact. And I said, tearing down that statue of Lee, that's just the beginning. Because he went to school out where you guys live, Berkeley.
Yes.
Guess what? He is a communist.
Hey, what is? So, do you know what in the Russian unit number 45707 is based in Peterhof?
45 doesn't. I think that would be an intelligence gathering.
45707 based in Peterhof. Supposedly, all the officers on this sub were assigned to that unit. There's an article in the Evening Standard. Will Stewart, Moscow, reporting from a few hours ago.
Yeah, with 45 being the designator, they're an intelligence gathering unit.
Okay.
So, yeah, I do know what that is.
Let's also make this known quite clearly that Russians historically do not operate independently like American tactical military units do. There will always be someone looking over someone else's shoulder to make sure that things are conducted accordingly. In World War II, it's no secret that the only people who had maps in the Russian army were officers. The peons were not trusted to have maps. So I would suggest if there were a lot of officers in this submarine, it was for purposes of actually accomplishing a number of jobs. So I don't think it's out of bounds to say that they were in the process of maybe being sly and attempting to tap something over there, and something bad happened, and it was very embarrassing for them.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now we can.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. No, they were vetted officers from the Forerunner to the KGB. And they were vetted by the KGB, or Forerunner of it. It was, I can't remember what they were called. I keep wanting to say, they were checked. Good God, my mind. I hate getting old.
You mean before the KGB or after the KGB?
Huh?
You mean before the KGB or after the KGB?
They were before KGB. KGB didn't really come into being until midway into the war, and I keep wanting to say a word, and it's not going to be right. Anyways, my mind is tapioca right now thinking.
No worries.
But because you bring up several things, but the point is, now the Russian Federation does give a high level, because they've seen the success the U.S. has done, a high level of autonomy. Does that mean there's not a GRU agent? Because GRU is the military version of the KGB and always has been.
Right.
So does that mean that they do not have a GRU agent with them? Probably, because it's SIGINT.
Right.
This is fact.
Right. And it involves the military as well. Hey, Kaiser, I hate to say this, but we're going to have to wrap it up because Clint has got to go. And thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Kaiser. God bless, brother.
Appreciate it, sir. Wow. Okay, I'm glad we brought that up. But again, there's so much stuff we didn't even tap into.
Hey, look, there's a lot of speculation. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out over the next week or so.
I think that there will be more. It'll be parsed out just a bit. But the article that I read saying that the intent at the time was perhaps to have tapped into something that may be up in that region. Yeah, I can see that. We've done that before. I could see them doing the same thing. And maybe it was an oopsie, and they got some people killed. And it made them look bad.
Possible. That's a probability. But we can't rule out.
But nobody knows exactly.
Nobody knows for sure. We can't
and
rule
we may
out
never
other
know.
potentially other options, right?
That's like the Thresher. We may never know, and we talked about this on the break. The Scorpion. We may never know.
Yeah.
So okay,
great discussion tonight.
I thought it was absolutely grand.
Play us out.
How about if I do that? I'll start the outro music. Most important question: are you around next week?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
You
Unless
swear?
bad shit happens, then I won't be.
Pinky swear?
Pinky swear.
Okay. For Sackheads Clint, and that's Sackheads Clint.
I'm Sackheads Clint.
And I'm Sackheads BC. Thanks for listening tonight. And no Berserk Bobcat Saloon show tomorrow night. I'm going to be grilling big, thick steaks.
Happy 4th of July.
So happy 4th of
happy
July.
Happy birthday, America.
To everybody. Happy Independence Day. Have a great 4th and a great weekend. We'll see you back next week. Right here, the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Good night.